Joining me now is the Democratic Congresswoman from Pennsylvania, Summer Lee, who's been campaigning with Abdul El-Sayed. And Congresswoman, good morning. I believe that you are with Abdul El-Sayed right now as we speak out on the road in Michigan here with 40 days left. I want to ask you specifically about a new ad that we saw from Republican candidate Mike Rogers posted yesterday. It was an AI video showing El-Sayed with Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in a depiction of a Trojan horse making their way into Michigan, trying to paint this idea of this fear of communism and socialism in Michigan. When you are out there, how are you guys addressing to voters concerned about sort of these fear type of messaging about sort of anti-capitalism entering places, not just like Michigan, but the U.S. Senate?
You know, that is a lot of political noise. And I think that you'll find that when we talk to everyday people, they're not as deeply into some of these political fear, divisive tactics. People at the end of the day here in Michigan, and I definitely know in Pennsylvania, they want to know that their government cares about them, that they're going to create solutions to the that they have. So we're talking about generational challenges that we're facing, and people here are looking for generational talent, generational solutions, and that includes making sure that no American, nobody in Michigan worries about whether or not they can go to the hospital or afford their prescription drugs, or whether or not their job is going to fall from underneath them because they're investing in AI instead of investing in people's housing and people's schools. That's the message that we talk about. That's what people talk back to us about. And I think that if some of these Republicans and maybe even some other folks who are more used to the campaigning and less used to actually being among people actually spoke to these folks, they would cut some of those tactics and actually get to the business that people want us to get to.
Congresswoman, over the years, there's a growing number of prominent voices, you among them, that have made the case for progressives that you have compelling arguments economically and on myriad of issues that are worth fighting for, and that you guys can be important voices in the U.S. Congress. But as part of this, what is so different about this Michigan race is the fact that it's expected to be very competitive. And there's really not, I have a hard time coming up with examples of prominent progressive voices winning either difficult purple U.S. House races or competitive Senate races. What are you telling Democratic primary voters that are questioning whether El-Sayed is the best option to take on Mike Rogers in a seat that, frankly, your party must win in November?
People aren't looking for labels. People are looking for solutions. When we think about what people are looking for in this moment, they're looking for people who are going to censor people politics instead of corporations. I think that too often in Washington and in the media, we talk about the binary, right? You're left or you're right. You're a progressive or you're a moderate. But where we see the biggest success are candidates, irrespective of however they are labeled, going straight to people. Candidates who are talking about people's needs. They're talking about the affordability crisis, where we have folks who are struggling between their gas prices or their electricity. People who are struggling to put food on their table or make sure that their kids go to safe schools consistently, irrespective of their zip code. We live in the wealthiest nation on earth, and people want a government that reflects that. They want solutions that reflect that. So I think that we have to get out of this orientation of left or right. Listen, I come from Western Pennsylvania. And there was a time where people told me that someone like me could never win Western Pennsylvania, that people like us could never win in states like Pennsylvania and Michigan. But our issues, our policies, our values, they went out every day as long as there's not a $67 million smear campaign attached to them. So I would say that if they had and if they were confident in their ability to win over the people of Michigan, why spend so much money?
Congresswoman, Representative Stevens, current colleague of yours in the House, tweeted about El-Sayed this week saying, and quote, "Part, everyone in America understands you want to blame all of your problems on Jewish Americans," adding that El-Sayed is a celebrity and a part of a complainer class who is in the race to secure the, quote, next book or podcast deal, concluding her post with, quote, "Bro, I just want to work for Michigan." AIPAC has spent millions of dollars on Haley Stevens' candidacy to lift her up here. What do you make of her comments in that tweet directed at your friend and potentially future colleague?
No, I think it's disappointing, of course. You know, at the end of the day, these are passionate races and people want to win. No one steps into this arena because they don't want to win. But I do think it's important that the way we run our campaigns, who we're implicating in some of our attacks, is so much bigger than just the candidate themselves. I think about all of the people, not just Jewish folk or Muslim folks or black or brown folks who find themselves in the crosshairs of campaigns and sometimes negative ads or negative attacks, and they see themselves being attacked as well. The reality is that I've never seen any candidate blame a race or a religion of people here. I see people who are vying for respect and vying for the ability to have their values and their message get out. But AIPAC is spending money. It's important to say how much. I believe it's around $30 million. This is the largest spend that we have seen in any primary in history. So if they did not expect to be attacked or contradicted or even called out, then they wouldn't have spent that money. They're spending it, and they're spending it under their own name because they want the attention. And what they're doing is wrong. In my district and so many others, they oftentimes distort, they spread disinformation, and they have very little care about the people who actually should get to choose their representative. So no, I think it's important to stay focused on the issues, and that's what I would do as a candidate, but I can't tell my colleagues what they should do or how they should run.
Congresswoman, I realize there's a reason out there. It's because you're fighting for another progressive to join you over here in Washington. And there's a reason why so many people around the country are watching this race here unfold for the reasons that you just described. And we were showing Gretchen Whitmer, the governor of Michigan, as well as outgoing Senator Gary Peters. They've backed Haley Stevens. And we see that polling. Abdul El-Sayed, if he does not win it, at least it will be competitive here based off of polling. And it's a compelling race that folks are watching as these arguments play out here in real time. Congresswoman, Democratic Congresswoman Summer Lee from Pennsylvania, we appreciate your time this morning. Take care of these next 48 hours.